Welcome to Design Notes. I'm Liam Spradlin, and this week I talked to Eduardo Oliveira, a designer at Ustwo here in New York. Eduardo's background includes a lot, from industrial design to animation and interface, and at Ustwo he's helped design and build some of the studio's incredible watch faces for Android. In this episode we covered Ustwo's principles for wearable design, how to take advantage of the smartwatch's unique capabilities, and the future of wearables, along with the importance of exploring new ideas. Let's get started. Hey Eduardo, thanks for joining me on Design Notes this week.
Thank you.
So I guess jumping right into it, tell us a little bit about what you do at Ustwo, and I guess a little bit about your journey there.
Well, at the moment I am a designer at Ustwo. I know that a lot of people try to like product designers and visual designers. They just like to say like I'm a designer. A little bit of my journey. That's a big one, I feel like. Well, I'm from Brazil. I was born and raised in Rio. So it's a really hot city to be. And it's just, like, I guess, like the reason that I went to design is, I don't know, I feel like a couple of people in my family like are related to art. I was always into, I think, like furniture somehow. And Legos was a big thing. I think like and like I just went for industrial design right away. So that's actually what I'm graduated at. My BA is in industrial design. I attended to all the classes on visual design as well, but didn't finish. Just didn't do the final project, which kind of bumps me like a little bit. Feels like going back and like just getting the double BA. Well, it's something that is not gonna happen, but. So was in school for like 5 years because I did two of them and had a lot of fun. Industrial design is a huge passion of mine. And through school was, I think like I have to, like the scenario in Brazil is like a little bit different than it is here in US and North America, Europe, if you want to say. Over there is a little bit behind, and I'm being really nice by saying a little bit. So the scenario for industrial designers, for example, like there's not a lot of jobs. There are not, they don't pay really well. And, it's not, you leave school and like thinking like you have no idea what to do next. So way before you leave school, like even internship, like doing internships, like whatever you find that first is like more stuff related to web design. And I think that's what I did. At the beginning, like I internship, and then actually the first one was as a Flash animator / UI stuff, which was crazy. Working on Flash, action script, like this is like 2007, I guess.
Right.
It feels like, I don't know, 20 years ago. It's funny how like I let like my life kind of guide myself without choosing stuff too much, because I was a little bit desperate, I have to say, because I wanted to find something quick. And in comparison to all my friends or like economists and lawyers, like all of them like got well paid stuff and they had their own things going on, and I was having problems to find an internship. So to me it was quite amazing to like whatever came first, kind of like I got it. Of course I chose not everything. But this Flash animation thing was pretty amazing because I got in touch with motion for the first time. And this is something that is quite strong for me these days. So I got in touch with like the first rules like of animations and like started to study that a little bit. Got in touch with code a little bit because we had action script, not too much. And I think for the first time I was doing like UI because what we were doing on that work, what I was doing on that work, we're doing like these classes for media for the internet, and inside that, like there was a lot of UI stuff, and most of the designers over there was animators, so they weren't like designers, they were more animators driven, right. And was so like I got every time that we had something related to UI, I was the one doing it. So it was pretty cool. That lasted for like a year or something. So I graduated, and right after graduation, like I think the first thing that I got was related to web again. And so I was doing like mail marketing stuff. I learned in HTML, CSS, which is something that I always said that I wouldn't, because every single designer like learned HTML, CSS, and like they work more as a developer than a actual designer. Right. But I learned that I found my way like not doing only code. Like it was like half, I would say. I did a couple of websites, learned it a lot. I think like going through this phase of my life where I learned code was really nice to me, because nowadays I feel like I understand developers way better. In that sense, it's pretty good for me nowadays. So I wouldn't say it was a waste. I feel like every designer needs, like a little bit of code and like understand. So like their relationship with developers is way better. Right. That was fun. I knew that in Brazil it wasn't happening. I also like, since I was a kid, like I have a couple family that lives abroad, and I don't know, like every time they came for Christmas, like it felt like they have like all this like CD players. They were the first ones to have. So like I had that imagination that everything that's from abroad is better. So I always wanted to try. So I was looking for a couple of years, like 1.5, 2 years. I was looking for something to do abroad, and I always wanted to go Europe, but Canada popped in as a good option. And I actually went to VFS, Vancouver Film School. Don't know if you know. It's a pretty good school. I did a digital design program over there. It's 1 year long. I think it was my renaissance as a designer. Inside that program, you're supposed to choose between motion and digital design. So like interaction design. So like you learn UX, AI, you go through like visuals. Like I was pretty confident about my visuals at that time, but logo, even branding. So because I was abroad, it was a pretty expensive course. Like I didn't make money. So like my parents were still helping me. So like I felt super guilty about it. And I kind of like tried to do both. So I think that year was probably the most insane year I will ever had in my life. I didn't have kids yet, but I don't want to commit to that. But let's see how it's going to work. But that year was going to school like 9 a.m. to 3:30 a.m. That was when the last bus passed. And sometimes we sleep in the school. And it was amazing. That was the first time back in home. Like I think still today, nowadays, like we don't talk about UX design yet. Product design is not that developed. I would say almost nothing. Like I think like the biggest thing over there now at the moment, I don't know too much, but like if I would say like do responsive website might be like the biggest thing. Like we might be starting to talk a little bit of apps and things like that. I might be wrong. I don't want to. And, but it feels definitely like a little bit behind. So I got there and I got fascinated about interaction and like everything related to product design. And I think like one thing that I tell, I think everyone in the class, like we were like around 30, like 28 or something. We all feel like we were super lucky about that year, because, it was a particular year that like really amazing teachers were there. Like, so we had Miles Nurse. He was working on the Kinect project for Microsoft for like a couple of years. So like had like amazing insights all the time. We have like several, like even like PM classes, like to me was very interesting.
Right. So part of being there for 12 or 15 hours every day was the passion and not just the workload.
Definitely. Yeah. I feel like the moment that I left home and I got in Vancouver and I discovered this entire new world, I felt like I never not had a side project. Like right. I'm always doing like a side project. Like I do stuff for fun. It's never for fun because you learn a lot. And, you start doing like freelance work, and like you start helping friends each other, and we start thinking about doing something together. This all happens, you know how it is. Right. And passion was definitely there. It was a little bit like trying to like succeed in life as well. And the last thing that I would say about that would be like this whole pressure about like make the money worth. Like my parents were working like crazy to make that happen, and I was able to pay like 2 months out of the 12, all the other 10 months was, so like I felt pretty guilty about it, and it wasn't, I don't know, I just made it work, and it was good for me because I already had some knowledge on motion stuff. I've been working with like web, and I was super lucky that I got really good friends that are like I would say like the biggest friends that I made in there were all from motion. And all of them are insane. Like they're working on giant ants. Like Dominic is working on this German motion design that I can't say the name. I just can't say the name. But they are amazing, and like they could help me out, like not just software wise, but like being a motion designer, which is completely different. I know that I've worked as a Flash animator before, but it was very simple stuff, like nothing like too complicated, and I actually pushed it, motion design. I knew that I wasn't going to be a motion designer, but somehow I felt like, and like a lot of stuff that I do, I try to do like a MoPro is what we call like a prototype in motion,
right?
Like try to show the flow, and I think it's like if you don't have a prototype in hands, like showing a motion prototype, like showing the flow, it's like at least what we can do. So if
right.
it feels like powerful, like it's empowering, like having that skill.
Yeah, and that goes back to being able to communicate with developers effectively. So
exactly,
a motion prototype is a lot easier to convey like what the interaction is supposed to be like.
Yeah,
if you can show them something.
And like spec it out animation is pretty hard. So if you do the animations, so like if somebody that doesn't know how to animate, like, and they show something, like that's what happens sometimes. I would say like if you have the actual motion to show to the developers, like they understand way better, and it's a much better conversation. But yeah, definitely it helps a lot. Going through like so like I finished VFS. It was crazy. I slept 4 days after we graduated. 4 days in a row. It was crazy. I needed that. So, and then I got a job in Vancouver. Like, I think like after everyone that studies in Vancouver for 1 year gets a visa for 1 year. And working there was pretty cool. We got like I was in this studio called FCV, and we did like a lot of governmental stuff. Might not sound very exciting, but like I think like we found our way. I did this. It was amazing in like a lot of senses, and then I started one of the bigger projects that we did, like something that we did for like 5 months or something. I did like the whole look and feel at the beginning, and of course it changed. Like all the designs jumped in and it mutated itself, but it was an amazing experience. I think like a couple of things that I take from there is that I got super. I was already kind of a grid guy, like think a lot about like precision and like the relationship of everything. Like if everything is the consistency of everything, like this part is more technical. My art director was super strong on that, and he demanded that from me, and I got insane with that. So it's good because I felt really confident about my visuals, and like being technical wise, like super strong as well is something that is always welcome. And it helped me a lot with every time that we had to do something responsive. Like this website that I just mentioned, it was like around 40 pages, and it was responsive. Wow. So it's like 120 comps. So it was tough times, but it was fun. My visa expired over there. Vancouver, like on the other side, is a beautiful city. I love to snowboard, and Whistler is right there, so it was amazing to do that sometimes. But Vancouver it's not a city like for young people. I feel it's more chill, and I was raised on a more fast-paced kind of city, and all my friends that was cool, like they left. All of them were international, so like I left. I was there for like with 4, maybe 5 friends. And I don't think like social wise that I did not that I didn't do a good job. It's just like it's more difficult over there. So I just decided that I needed to try something, and I felt strong enough to like for the first time in my life, I felt strong enough to go try something else. I was supposed to go to Berlin, but another friend, I had family in New York. I have an uncle that was working for UN, and a friend of mine was in Berlin, and I had another friend here in New York. So like this, my family and my friend kind of like, yeah, if you're going to Berlin, New York's kind of in the way. I wouldn't say no. I already knew New York. Like I visited before, like for a week, and I came here, and man, it was. I once again, I wanted to rest a little bit because I was like, I didn't have any vacations for like 1 year and a half or something. So I wanted to explore in New York. Like I was looking for workshops. I wanted to redo my portfolio, and I was doing like insane side projects at the time, the Netflix one, and so like it took me a lot of time, and it's quite nice like doing side projects in New York on your parents, like uncle and aunt house. It was couldn't complain. But at the same time that I was doing this, like I was like kind of like I wanted to have some job interviews, and I wanted to have that experience. I want to see how it is in New York. Ustwo was my second, and they got super excited. I got excited. It couldn't work at the time, but for visa purposes. But I was in New York, and I went back to Brazil because I couldn't stay here forever. But what happened was we started freelancing. So from back home, I freelanced for them for like I think 8 months or something. And it was amazing. Like the relationship was there. I feel like Ustwo is such an amazing place to be. Like so many passionate people over there, and luckily enough, like they at the beginning, like one of the first projects that I was with there, like was more motion driven. I could help that, and I had for the first time I had to spec it out motion. It was a little bit of a nightmare. So some spreadsheets, counting seconds, milliseconds actually, here and there, and it was a great learning experience, and it was really nice to because I don't know if I mentioned that, but like back in school in Vancouver, like people were like, "Are you an interaction or a motion designer? Like, what it is that you're trying to do?" And the motion designers were super close to me. They used to mock me like, "You're not a motion designer," things like that. But I think like jokes on them. Like it is a really powerful tool that I have now, and I've been using it quite a lot. And the project that we're working there with the Android Wear, like I had a vision to do like a small teaser, and I had friends already, so I made it work. It was amazing. So right after this first projects that I had with them, like I got into the Android Wear one, and lots of fun. I know that we might be talking about this. So like summarizing, like I've been doing that. I got a visa to be with them now 4 months, I would say 4 or 5. I don't know. Like last year sounds like 10 years ago. But yeah, I'm with them, and we're working together now, and it's even more enlightening. It's quite amazing to see what they're doing there, and they really like give like a lot of room for like to people to happen, and I feel like project wise, like for the first time, like the project manager like doing their work, like this is the experience that I didn't have before. Relationship between UX developers and like process related, like we respect a lot what we're doing. Like we work on agile, and it's something that I learned with them, and it feels right. It feels like once again I'm learning a lot, and I feel like once again like getting more and more power, design power. Right. I would say, yeah. So yeah, try to make it small, but
yeah. And so, yeah, I know what you mean with the design labels. So someone might want to say, "Oh, you're only a motion designer," or "You're a UX designer," or something. But really, it's important to have all the skills that you do have and represent that accurately, I guess.
Definitely.
So now that you're at Ustwo, Ustwo has made a whole bunch of watch faces that are really awesome. So I guess I just want to know kind of about the process and special considerations for designing for wearables and kind of how that works.
Cool. We do have some principles, and I think this was such a learning curve, like for us, like at the beginning, like we didn't know much about it, like this whole like ambient modes, low beat modes, like peak cards popping up and popping back, glanceability. So like you try to like, I think at the beginning the biggest challenge was like trying to figure out what is what, like, and trying to have a set up like what it is that we're going to design. And during that process, like we started to design, and I feel like it was really important for us to respect a couple of like ground rules, I would say, like we call like principles. But if I remember correctly, like we had 3, and it was a B-Zen, be glanceable, and issue work. I'll try to explain all of them. Like the B-Zen is so like I feel like the project with Google started because Google saw this opportunity to do, because they look at the Play Store and like everything was like kind of like a copy of analog watch faces already, and or like under designed stuff. So it wasn't very overwhelming, and they saw this opportunity where we could do something exciting. So I think like the B-Zen came from like this really complicated stuff that was on the Play Store, like right. This like really like over designed, full of details, and not really exploring the fact that we're on a digital platform now. And so it is really easy to over design when you're in there. Like we have a Photoshop in front of us, we have a square that we could design whatever we want. And I think B-Zen is just a fact to remember, that like you need to be something like calming and not to over design. Glanceability is a big one for us. I think like out of the 3 ones will be like the main one. Everything that we did in there, like we wanted to be sure that you could glance right like for a second or so and get the information that you're looking for. It's really easy to design something that looks cool, but if you glance for like a second or so and you don't actually get the information that you're looking for, this is like a failure for us. So glanceability is like a huge thing for us. Like whenever we're doing something, like we did like small tasks for us, and it's good because all the designers are in there. Like we push each other. So like knowing those principles is a good thing, because we knew where to touch. Like we look at some new designs. Like I kind of know what kind of questions that I want to ask, and it's good. We push each other really well. Make it work is just that. Smartwatch faces, we have data to show and display, and I think it's a concern to do something that you look at it and you kind of understand right away what it is, and if not, it's like at least look zen. Let's say again, like it looks simple enough for you to like digest for a couple seconds and like quite understand it right afterwards. A couple of our designs that we got passionate about, like it looked like a little bit complicated. It had like a really neat idea, but it wasn't quite working. So we had these principles. I think regarding to the principles, those are the 3 ones that we thought about. Like I think a couple of the thoughts that we had was we try to use the digital platform in a unique way. Both UI, both concept, and the way of thinking. A couple of watch faces doesn't have that. Others have more. Others has the concept and the UI. Others just a UI. I think like one example that I could give for the UI, like hands not being on the center of the watch face, is one that I can think right away. From concept, like everything on the smart ones, having a calendar in front of you, like just a countdown for your next meeting, is like right. It's uniquely digital.
And so even, I mean, obviously, like watch faces wear 2 circles intersect, for instance, and that changes the texture or the color of that intersection. Like obviously that's not possible on physical, so that's making use
Exactly.
of having the screen.
Exactly, yeah. I think Next is a really good example. I think having the power to do this kind of like the color, the background color of Next is the background color of your events. Like so it comes to the glanceability, right? Like if you use your calendar in order to you choose your colors, and you have one event that is red, and the next one is yellow, and you glance right away, you see it's yellow, you don't even need to read anything. The fact that the yellow color is in there, you already know what it is, and we have like these touch points, and it's really good to like follow them.
So I know that most recently, well, I guess before we talk about bits, I guess I want to know just, how long does it take to create a watch face from concept to completion, and what is that process like? And are there, if you're going to release a pack, are all of those kind of going in parallel, or do you kind of like work through one by one, or how does that work?
How we did, or in the future?
Both.
I think like the first step was like to do the basic ones. It just made sense. And I think that's the only information that we had at the time. So we were doing like only time displaying at the moment. And we designed it a lot more than what we shipped. And I think that's normal. It's really difficult to say in one, how one watch face could be like from beginning, from idealization and shipping, like how much time it takes. It is completely different from one to another. I have Air, for example. There's like a simple analog watch face that I remember, if I remember correctly, like it was an easy one to design. Like the idea was there, and like we didn't struggle too much with the UI and the art direction or everything. Like we kind of felt like super solid right away. And developing that, specking is a problem. Specking is a problem. Not because it's a bad thing, but because like I want to make sure that the developers have everything in there, and it's always good. It's the documentation of like the stuff that we're doing.
So do you use any tools for that, or?
We were at the time we were using the PX Express. I used a little bit, but not for this project. And then we use like Photoshop itself for a certain time, and now we're using slides. I think it's something like that's easier to like everyone can jump on it. It's just that regardless of which tool we're gonna use, it's always feels like a little bit it's a lot to go. Like I always underestimate specking. I always think it's gonna be like 4 or 5 hours, and I spend the entire day. This is always always. I don't know what I need to pass through to learn that lesson. But yeah, like Air was one that's super fast, and on the basic ones like Zodiac, the one that have the time zones, were like way more complicated. Like that one, from the UI point of view, it took a lot of time. I did that one, and it's not a nightmare. For me, it's a pleasure that I take out of design. But like I got so many feedback, and we tried to improve so many times. Glanceability was the big one in there, and if I show you the iterations that I had in there, like so many options until get to Zodiac. And I feel like the only reason that Zodiac was shipped is because we all was super, we felt it was a solid and strong idea. And we kept going with it. And it took way longer. And if you think about the developers, it was like, for that time, was way more difficult for them. And like we had to like list it out time zones. Like we still not struggle, but like we still got some feedback on Play Store, and we try to address them as much as possible. So like Zodiac in comparison to Air is like a completely different time. I would say like Air, it's difficult to say. I don't know in one, because we never started to do one and then kept going with that one, spec it out, give it to developers, and then it was shipped. It was always like we were doing a group,
right?
And then this group was like kind of forming itself, and like got to a moment where like we shrink it down to like this collection of 8 or 12, and like something was on a backlog, and it might come back or not. And then when we felt solid about that one, we started to like spec it out. The first ones, it was already kind of like pretty ready to be spec it out and shipped. And then I don't think I have an idea, but if I have to guess, like as an easy one, I would take around 7 days. Everyone working super solid on it. Designers, UX. If it's a basic one, you can do like in 7 days maybe. And that's a guess, a wild guess. I was never in touch with, I didn't have the experience where we did one, started one, hey guys, let's finish this one now. And we never had that opportunity. And again, if it's a smart one that has like data, it gets way more complicated. Bits, for example, it was a matter of months. So
is there anything that you kind of like learned from that process for the future, I guess, about the process of designing and building for smartwatches in particular?
Oh, really? I think this is not, I don't think I can respond this for myself. I think I can respond this for the team. Like, we are so much stronger than we were in the past, like at the very beginning. I think like even for the studio, like people at the studio recognize us as a strong team. Like we know each other really well. We know the process really well. We are so familiar with like our sprints, and we know what to do, exactly what to do. We contract about stuff. We have to be responsible of this and that. And nowadays, like I feel like the team itself is super strong. Learning wise, I feel like I would say, like, for example, the principles. Like I knew that I had to read it again because I didn't even remember anymore. It is attached to us already. We don't have to look at the wall and see the principles to like give the proper feedback. Like we see something and like, oh, hey man, this is not glanceable. This is kind of like overwhelming. Like it's attached to us already. I think like this is the biggest learning, like experience maybe. We are very experienced on that now.
So through practice, those kind of like get ingrained into the psyche of the team and you just know intuitively. So I guess, going back to Bits, the new watch face.
Yeah.
I guess we've already kind of like heard a little bit about the process for that.
Yeah.
But it's more complex than your other packs, I guess. How did you decide like what to include in that as far as complications and like options for the user? Because as you said, like there is a point where it can detract from the experience by having too much, but how do you kind of make that judgment?
So like we wanted to hear like the users, like this is something that we try to do as much as possible. And we were hearing a lot of them. And we got to this point where we shipped the smartwatch faces, and we knew that like we have this data-driven watch faces, and like we wanted what would be the next step. So like hearing the user was really important for us. And as I mentioned, like they were talking like the opportunities that we saw was like customization. A lot of people wanted to customize stuff, and I think this regards to like everything that we do on the wear. Like if we do like the simplest basic watch face, people will want to change the colors, I want to change this and that. So like this is always going to be on the table. And we didn't know while we were doing this, but like, it got very it was very noticeable that this was a big thing. Being able to track stuff was always like a big thing. A lot of people were asking like, oh, I want to know like if my battery is drained or not. I want to know how many emails that I didn't read. So missed calls, like people were talking about this kind of stuff. And it felt like a lot like being able to track some pieces of information was a big thing. And tracking them somehow. And so like it felt like they wanted to have like this platform where you have like a little bit of everything. We had a name for that in the past. I don't remember anymore. But that was Bits, basically. We wanted to have something that had like small bits of information, like about whatever you could customize. And when I say customize, is like which kind of piece of information you're going to be showing, not just colors and the visuals. So we started with that. We kind of already had the idea of doing something like that. It was on our backlog, but like it got very like, yes, this is what we're going to do. And for the first time, like we had the opportunity to do interactive watch face, and like I think Bits was the first one interactive on Play Store. And so it was a great opportunity. Like maybe you can tap on those complications and like have an extra bit of information of it, so expanded version of it. So that's where Bits were like kind of like born. It was way bigger than every single one of them, and the other ones that we did in the past, and it was really pleasant. It's nice because it started to like we had the opportunity to see motion in there, because I know they were looking at it like it was something that I could do as well, and it's always nice to like. I feel like it's a delightful thing that you add for the watch faces, and I think through the process, like we added the whole anime, like the tap thing that we like whenever you could tap if you want to see different the different settings of one watch. Like for example, slides I have multiple colors. We added the tap experience to it for the first time. Like you tap on them, like you toggle through the colors, and it was really nice because before it was just like a smart, like a hard animation. It was like you tap on one, like you see the other one, like zero animation. And because we were working on those, like we started to add delight to it, like we say delight, which is another cool thing to talk about. I feel couple times, like I feel like we are adding like animation to it, like this delightful experience, and it's, to me, it feels a little bit weird that it's just a delightful thing. I don't think I ever believed this is just a delightful experience you're adding to it. I was talking with the UX designer of the team, like Jose Manuel, and it really feels more like it's how nature works, like motion itself. Like when you have easy in and easy out, like the best motion designers out there, they use that as like, they don't even think about it. It's like it's on their core. And when you do something that have that kind of like nice smooth animation, it's more natural. So if you have something attached to your body, you want it to feel natural. And I think like if you add this kind of let's say delightful for now, and if you add these delightful transitions and everything, and it makes completely sense to me.
And I think that now that we kind of like have the technological capability to add so much motion into interfaces, it's becoming more important to use that opportunity to not only like reflect the physical world, but also to add meaning to the transitions where it possibly wasn't there before.
Exactly. From the UX point of view, mainly, I remember not the first time, but like when you could when you delete something on a Mac OS and it goes to the bin, and like the fact that just that animation is like so simple, just the fact that it goes there, like it is a UX thing. Like you're like, before you had to solve from different ways, like having an arrow showing that it's going to the bin. Now it goes straight to there. It's like it's a simpler thing, and it's way more natural. Right.
So and with Bits, going back to customization, just because this is a topic that I'm kind of obsessed with.
I knew it.
Like, so smartwatches especially, or watch faces, are something that people definitely want to customize, and there are apps out there to make whatever, if you want to make a total mess of a watch face, then you can. If you don't, then you can make something simple. Mm-hmm. But with something like Bits, there are a lot of customization options, but they all look good. So it's kind of, I guess, what is your approach with like providing customization options that are still strong design decisions? So each one is still a good design no matter what configuration you put them into.
The approach is designers sit together and align with stuff a lot. That's what we do. We feedback a lot each other, and so yeah, like I'm super thankful to hear this, and I feel grateful because it was a lot of work. Like we wanted everything to look amazingly, and we worked our best, and we know that you guys want to do that. So like not giving that to you guys it doesn't make any sense. And going through Bits, and I think like Bits was a really challenge because it was kind of like, it was already a complicated watch face. Like if you put 7 complications in there, it might look crowded. And it was important for us, like regardless of the customization that you do, like it has to work. Like our principles has to be there present for everything that we do, and customization is one of them.
So basically, sitting down with designers and looking at every possible combination and just making sure that all of them are strong. I guess switching gears a little bit, another topic I'm obsessed with is future tech. My feeling on wearables right now, and I say this as I'm wearing a Huawei watch and enjoying the experience greatly, is that smartwatches to me right now feel very much like a nice accessory. Yeah. They can be beautiful objects with beautiful decor on the screen, and they can provide some usefulness of seeing like notifications and seeing info at a glance when your phone's in your pocket. But I still feel that they're kind of lacking sort of a must-have feature, if that makes sense. Yeah. So something that convinces people like this is not just a device that looks nice, but it's something you must have. Like smartphones, for instance, are so capable that they're proliferating like crazy. The feature phone is almost dead, not quite. But they have found their like must-have capabilities. So in your mind, I know this is a super vague question, but what do you think might be something that would make the smartwatch a must-have?
Well, man, first of all, if I had the exact correct answer for this, I would be rich at the moment.
Yeah, fair.
Wow, it's difficult, man. I think like everybody's trying to do that, and not just for wearables, like for everything. Like everything that you design, you want this to be like a must-have for the users. So I think like wearables is like a very, it's kind of like a baby tech now, and everybody's trying to figure out what to do with it and make it powerful. So I really don't know how to answer that question. I think like there are a couple deal breakers for me, like the battery life, it's a deal breaker. The integration is not there yet. So there are a couple things that needs to be fixed yet, but I'm not quite sure. I'm really not quite sure. I struggle with the idea of making like wearables become like a phone. Like I don't want that. I'm not sure if I want that to happen. Like I think like the experience that you have with a phone is a different experience that you have with a watch. And I'm not, although like I feel like the worst would be like to have to be talking on a phone, on a watch. That would be the worst experience. And we kind of don't do that anymore.
Right.
Like I don't talk on the phone anymore. That's weird.
And if you did, you would need some kind of peripheral device like headphones or something to hear the other party, unless you want to have a public conversation.
Yeah.
Plus, I feel like the smaller display is more limited. Like, if we've learned anything, bigger phones are popular these days.
Yeah.
It seems like. And there's some interactions. So, for example, and this is maybe a controversial opinion, but typing, I don't think is suited for a 1.5-inch screen.
Oh, yeah.
I think there are a lot of like input methods and interactions from phones that just can't work on watches. And I don't see that changing. So, yeah, I agree. I don't see them going in the direction of replacing your phone.
Oh, no, definitely not. No.
Battery is probably the most immediate improvement that can be made to any technology, phones included.
Exactly. I was about to say the same. Any technology.
But yeah, it's a tough question. We've got to keep thinking about it. But it's a good thing that if we're going to have smartwatches and we're going to pursue this until they are must-have objects, it's good that there are so many organizations and people everywhere just working towards that goal. So
I think this is definitely true. Like everybody's trying to achieve that.
So I guess the real answer is we have to figure out what they are now before we can figure out what they'll be in the future.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way about some other emergent tech like VR, for instance. So that's probably still not there yet.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's always amazing to explore, right? It's Google Glass was one of them, and I think like those explorations need to happen, and I feel like getting them to users is quite amazing. I don't think anything bad can come like out of these explorations. Like here and there, like we are gonna maybe, I don't know, join something from Google Glass to another device in the future, and
right.
So, like these things can happen. Like this is all learnings. I feel like one of the methods that we have, like we respect a lot the learnings, and we shouldn't not be doing that. So like it's all part of the process.
Yeah, and I feel like Wear actually learned a lot from Glass.
Yeah.
So Glass came out, they got a pretty good set of user data. I mean, with thousands of users, eventually going international to Europe. So then they kind of like took that back into secret, closed the Explorer program, and then Wear came out, and like there were obvious influences with the timeline, the whole like everything as a card concept of how you navigate those things. And maybe now Glass is learning from Wear, and then they'll come back with those lessons whenever Glass comes back. But yeah, I think you're right. It's just even if something ends up not being a good idea, it's better that you check if it's a good idea first before just discarding it. Yeah. So, all right. I think that wraps it up for this episode.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
And yeah, I look forward to the bright future of smartwatches.
You will.